Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I have a question from a subscriber and she would like to know if you can make these inky alcohol ink flowers on Bristol paper if it would have the same effect. Um, my first short answer is no, it won't work the same way because alcohol inks are made specifically for non-porous surfaces. But I wanted to give it a try and see what would happen. And so here we go. So I have some Bristol paper. This is Strathmore Bristol paper. It is a smooth surface and 100 pound. It's thick paper. It's nice, very smooth, feels good. And I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison. So here's the glossy paper. I think you can see the gloss on there, very smooth. We used that before. And here is the Bristol paper. There's no sheen, no gloss. Feels very smooth though, has a nice feel, and it's kind of a stiff paper there. So we're going to see what happens. So I'm just going to do side by side. I'm going to drop some drops, and we're going to watch and see how they react and move. So the first observation I have is it doesn't spread out nearly as much as it does on the glossy paper. It sinks into the paper. Let's see. And through the paper. So this is the Bristol paper. For the glossy, this is dry, but you see I have a lot bigger circles from doing about the same thing. It also goes through the paper. This is a thin glossy paper. If you had the thick glossy paper or glossy cardstock, it might not go all the way through. The ones that I did before, they went through some, not a big deal. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to try was to make the halos. So these very light colored halos that you can get by dropping alcohol ink onto a dry spot. So I'm going to try this one. I'm sorry, blending solution onto a dry alcohol ink spot. I did 2 drops of blending solution on each, giving a chance to pick up some color, and then blowing with the straw. So I think you can see the difference there. This just moves so much easier on this paper. It did move on this paper. It kind of gives a nice effect, really, but just not to the extent of that paper. Okay, so the next thing I want to try is to do a wet drop of alcohol ink plus blending solution and see how that moves on this paper. That just like sinks straight in, and so it feels different. So you can see this green really spread out before I even blew on it. And then this spread out too. This is spread out, but it didn't move like this moved. It's hard to explain on camera, but this is like, it just like instantly, it's done. This, it's got a little tiny bit of playtime. A little tiny bit of time where you can keep blowing or moving it around. But this one, no, that's it. You blow, you're done. That said, you get a nice effect. I mean, that's a pretty little flower. It's a green flower, but hey. So there is that. Okay, so basically that's what I wanted to test, to see how the inks would move on the Bristol paper. And we can see they don't move very much, not like they do on the glossy paper. But I also have a couple of other little tricks. So I didn't write them here, let me write. I gessoed the Bristol paper, which is going to take away some of that absorbency. And I used a clear gloss medium on the Bristol paper. Now, and then I let it dry. So what I've done is basically take away the absorbency power of the Bristol paper by putting these mediums, well, this medium and this gesso on top. And let's see what happens. So drops. How do the drops move? These spread out more. These are still really small, but they're not soaking in like this. So you can see how this one soaks straight into the paper. And this one is still has these, it moved out, but it just didn't move out very far. This one spread out quite a bit. Definitely different from this. So if you wanted to do something different, you could. Okay, so the next thing was to test and see if it would move after. This is obviously moving. See if you could get that flower shape. So, yeah, you can see this moves a lot more. It still has a different effect than the glossy. It's not, this gloss medium is not as smooth as the gloss paper. Also kind of a completely different shape of the effect on the gesso. And then if we compare this to the Bristol that is just regular Bristol, it's also a little different from there. You can see that it moved a lot more with the gloss medium, and it has a different kind of shape. And that has everything to do with the paper. Okay, and then the other test was to put the ink plus blending solution. Now you can see both of these spread out a lot more than the original once you add the blending solution. Okay, so this one picked up the gloss medium with the ink. It picked up everything in the middle and pushed it all to the outside. You can see how it's very dark around the outside, whereas on the plain Bristol paper, it did not. It sank straight into the paper. Okay, and then the gesso, it's like a little planet with trees all around it. It just looks different. So depending on what you want to do, excuse me, depending on what you like and what you want to do, you can have different effects using different kinds of paper. So you can see with just the plain Bristol paper, you don't get very much movement. It sinks straight into the paper. With the glossy, which is the alcohol inks are designed for, it moves a lot more. If you coat your Bristol paper with gesso or clear gloss medium, trying to find a place where you can see it, where you can compare them. So gesso, Bristol, and clear gloss. These are all Bristol paper but with different coatings, and you can get different results. Okay, so I hope that is helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.